World Development System. Chapter 121. Gray then immediately removed his gaze from him and left the spot so he couldn't be spotted. Fen thought that someone was looking at him, but he immediately heard Duke Black Wolf as he didn't bother anymore. Black Wolf asked Fen, "Do you have any news about that upstart and his slave?" Fen gave him one of the reports he got from his men. "From our reports, that slave hasn't left North Frontier Town. He is currently taking care of handling his own departments. It looks like that Count hasn't taken a bait. He is at least not sending his important men to assassinate Sylvan." Black Wolf rubbed his chin as he spoke. "Knowing his personality, I don't think he will take this humiliation lying down. We can still expect something." Fen thought and spoke based on the summary of his reports. "I guess he is smart enough to know about his limitations, and hence he didn't take a bait this time around by not sending his important men. From the rumors, I know that this Count is quite smart, as he has created a lot of new things, including those papers. He even started his own business from scratch, with the soap machines being his first product. However, if his master is trying something, then I can't guess, but I don't think anything big will happen." Duke sighed as he spoke. "Well, let's see how this goes. I guess it will be a dull day today if he isn't taking any bait." Alistair spoke to Prince Hector. "It seems he hasn't taken our bait this time around. However, this is in our favor as well, because this would mean that Count is going to take this on the face while we openly use his soap machines. This soap is also better compared to the previous soaps that we used, and hence I think we can make a lot of profits and gain funds for our war using these soaps. And because of our blockade, the rose soaps have less penetration in the markets overseas, and hence we can exploit this market. This celebration going on without a hassle is much better for us, as this would not force us to act while that upstart's prestige falls because he backed down." Prince Hector nodded as he heard Alistair and spoke. "I guess this is good as well. Come, let's go to the ceremony. Bring Sylvan as well. Duke Black Wolf has already arrived. We need to greet our guests. And our plan is still on in case he sends someone else instead of his trusted men." Alistair saluted and left for making preparations. "As ordered, my lord." Hector greeted Duke Black Wolf. "Greetings to Duke Black Wolf. It's very good seeing you after such a long time, as you were able to take out some time out of your busy schedule. As you might already know from Minister Justin, this guy is Master Sylvan. He is the one who made it possible for us to have these soaps." Duke smiled as he saluted Prince Hector as a basic courtesy. "It's good seeing you again, Your Majesty. I decided to come today as I had some free time, and you also invited me previously, so I thought it would be very rude about rejecting your invitation again. Additionally, we could do our deals as well, so it was better visiting you." Duke observed the new soaps carefully as he commented, "These new soaps are quite good compared to our previous ones. I guess combing both the techniques was worth it." Duke then greeted Sylvan. "Greetings to Master Sylvan, I see you are the one." Duke continued to ask, "I see that Alistair is not present today. Where is he?" "He is usually in the radius of max 6m away from you, Your Majesty." "Is there some matter?" Prince Hector showed a mysterious smile as he spoke. "I guess there is. He will be right back after making some arrangements." Everyone here understood the meaning behind Prince Hector's words, while no one raised any questions. Duke Black Wolf then made a slight snide towards Norman as he asked, "Where is your daughter Mary? Shouldn't she be present here today?" Norman furrowed his eyes. He too took a shot at Duke Black Wolf. "She will come later. She is just taking her time to get ready. You don't need to worry about her. Meanwhile, how are the sales of your soaps nowadays?" Black Wolf smiled as he snickered and answered, "No problem, it's quite good. We are also earning good profits nowadays because of reselling those new soaps to the bordering countries. We are also divesting our investment. I guess I got a good finance minister, unlike some people." Hector interfered as he saw that the heat was increasing between both the dukes and decided to cool it down. "Why don't we focus on today's matter instead of bickering on small issues? Come, Alistair has arrived as well." Norman nodded as he followed Prince Hector. "It seems he has finished his preparations." Come, let's go together. Gray thought as he saw a lot of suspicious people in the crowd while he patted the mini ballista. It looks like he has hidden a lot of guards in civilian clothes here today. This assassination might have been tricky if not for this mini ballista. This baby here will be quite a handful for today. As Vlad suspected, it really was a bait from the looks of these guys. It looks like he wanted to trap the assassin if any sort of assassination took place. The prince really is a pussy from the way he is protecting himself. I need to be cautious of that butler as well. Alistair started introducing everyone to their new soaps. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you liked our new soaps. These soaps were specially made by combining the tech of both Master Sylvan and Duke Blackwolf's men, who had a lot of experience in soap making. One of the nobles commented, "It looks like, now there will be some competition in the market on soaps after the new rose soaps were introduced. I used these soaps, they were quite useful though not comparable to those new rose soaps, but these soaps were certainly better than any other soap in the market apart from rose soaps." The second noble nodded and spoke, "That's true, these soaps aren't rough like the previous ones and are quite good. It looks like they mimicked rose soaps in making the flavors of these soaps and it seems they intend to introduce more flavors as well." The first noble nodded, "I guess there will be a riot in the soap business since these soaps are introduced in the market." The third noble also interjected, "That true, plus both Duke Norman and Black Wolf are also in support. I guess all the parties have a stake in these soaps including Prince Hector. I guess this only leaves Duke Fjord and the Central Dukes as Duke Sapphire already has interests in rose soap trade." The second noble asked others, "By the way, I heard that these soap techniques were actually stolen from Count John by Prince Hector. I heard it at a party from Prince Charlie. Is this true?" The first noble sighed as he spoke, "I guess it isn't a secret anymore, most people know that Prince Hector did this to show his power to that upstart. I wonder what will happen now, will that Count bend and see his market get stolen or would he retaliate?" Suddenly, an arrow came at a very fast speed towards Sylvan. This arrow seemed special as it had both fire and wind properties to it. Chapter 122. This arrow traveled in no time as it traveled 500 meters as it pierced Sylvan's brain as he was giving a speech. The arrow blasted as soon as it made contact with Sylvan's brain. The whole scene was gore as his brain burst in blood and meat. The only last reaction of Sylvan was happily giving his speech as he didn't even realize that an arrow pierced him until the last moment when he actually felt pain. Watching this, everyone in the crowd was surprised, including all the dukes and their guards. People were in silence as they didn't know what to make of the situation as this was the first one for them. Gray smiled as he saw people's reactions from the hotel's roof half a kilometer away. He patted the mini ballista, disassembled it and packed it in his bag as he left in a calm manner so as not to raise any suspicions of anyone. He was in a disguise this whole time during his operation. Gray thought as he smiled, "This mini ballista is quite good as it is specially made from magic steel. This will come in handy for a long time." Guards of Prince Hector were a little bit away from Sylvan. Everyone was in shock as Prince Hector was the first to react to Sylvan's assassination. He roared towards Alistair, "What the hell happened here, Alistair? Tell the guards to check for any suspicious individuals over here. Which great man did we offend that a combat-oriented knight specializing in magic attacked us? Could that small count really get help from those secluded men?" Alistair was in shock only until he realized what happened right now. "Master, I don't think that is the case, because the force with which this projectile traveled was several times faster than any archer including Magic Knight could do it. I think we had been done in, this time around." Duke Blackwolf was quite shocked as he asked his guard, "Hey Fen, could you defend me if that projectile had come towards me?" Fen proudly spoke, "Of course I can. I would need to use some earth magic and my shield to protect you because that projectile was very lethal just from the point of view of force and power alone. However, protecting you won't be a problem. It would be difficult if 4 such projectiles from 4 directions targeted you at the same time. However, it would be manageable as long as I am in very close proximity to you with the help of Dirk. Additionally, you have that armor with that special rune, so I guess it is okay as long as a shower of such arrows is not upon us. Black Wolf nodded as he immediately ordered, okay, we are leaving immediately. It seems he made another weapon and used it here to show his power and humiliate Prince Hector. However, that projectile was very special from the way it burst on contact with Sylvan. Black Wolf frustratingly asked, Arg, this is such a headache. Fen nodded and spoke, this weapon seemed to come from a long distance in the west. I guess that the projectile was crafted especially for assassination purposes. Not many people can craft such a powerful rune on arrows. I guess Duke Sapphire's rune master helped that count with that projectile, or it may be that demon Vlad who got that projectile by his nefarious thuggery means. This weapon would be very useful for our men if we can get it. Meanwhile, Prince Hector roared and cursed angrily, it's that upstart for sure, he killed my men so brazenly. Catch that assassin as soon as possible, I will make sure he experiences a fate worse than hell. Prince Hector then spoke gravely to Alistair, I don't want to hear any excuses. I guess that upstart really likes to keep his face. Damn that upstart, all my plans are undone. Go and capture that assassin. Alistair seriously spoke to Prince, Master, I can't leave as I fear that this abate by that count to assassinate you in revenge for our previous actions. Who knows how many of those projectiles are there in their arsenal, so it would be better to remain cautious. However, you do not have to worry as I have sent my men to check the direction from which the arrow came from. Alistair meanwhile murmured, I guess he really one-upped me this time around. This count is quite interesting. It would be quite hard to please Prince Hector this time around. Maybe I should bring in some woman to his chambers tonight as I can escape his wrath. It would have been interesting if I was serving that upstart's strategist, he has a lot of toys with which he could carve out a new kingdom. I guess this is fate. Mary meanwhile just arrived as she saw the horrible scene of Sylvan's head bursting out. What was that weapon? I have never seen a weapon doing this much damage in an instance unless it is combined the magic of magicians, and what is with its speed? Is that count really capable of creating such horrifying weapons of war? Alistair explained to her, not to worry Mistress Mary, that projectile was specially made, it was runic and very few people in Elias can make a projectile this lethal, so I don't think we need to be alarmed. I guess that count wanted to say that he is not a pushover judging by our previous actions. I think the weapon itself was also made by a magic metal if my predictions are right. Norman came and said to Alistair, I guess he will be a big bloody thorn based on his current actions. Until now he has never backed down whenever someone tried to humiliate him or show him power. Can we use it against him? Alistair thought and nodded, quite a brilliant observation, Duke Norman. It can be used only if the royal family interferes or someone more powerful like Fire Abyss royalty, however, it could backfire if he runs away to another kingdom or is strong enough to retaliate like Lore family of the past. To be very honest, that guy could be quite an asset to a kingdom. If he is very powerful, I don't think the royal family will make a move this easily unless they are sure. Duke Norman smiled as he spoke, where would he run? He is landlocked and surrounded by beasts on the north. As far as strength is concerned, could he really fight with the royal family with that small piece of land, Oregon, 600,000 of his population? Royal family alone has a military of 1.2 million soldiers. Alistair didn't fail to remind him, that army is scattered, though. Well, let's leave it for later. Meanwhile, Grey Long left the hotel he stayed at and was in a different disguise to be cautious. Grey thought as he saw Alistair's men in civilian clothes searching for someone, asking people on who stayed in the nearby hotels, as he murmured, it seems their reaction is quite slow, maybe the effect of this new weapon and shock. This will come in handy a lot for our men. I never had such an easy operation in my life, didn't even get the chance to use my lovely swords. I wonder how will Diril and Martin react to such developments. I saved quite a lot of time to escape with the weapon, plus it is quite accurate if you are proficient in it. These new projectiles with runes were very good, to be honest. I could have fired from a longer distance as well. I guess it is always better to remain on the safe side. Mission over, back to North Frontier Town. Gray left the city of Greedos smoking his cigarette while the whole city was in turmoil. Good riddance. I guess I need to thank that Count for this new baby. It made my job a lot easier. However, it seems Lord Vlad spent quite a lot, as I can see magic steel used on this mini ballista. Maybe I should do more missions frequently. I can ask for more projectiles for this weapon from Vlad this way. One of the hotel owners answered the knights in their investigation. I think there was a suspicious man with a thick brown beard, but he had quite unusual hair, as they seemed black yet silver, and he also had a mark on the left side his face. He only stayed at this hotel for this morning. He left as soon as he saw chaos breeding in the city. He was on the terrace looking at the town. I guess he was scared after watching that scene and hence decided to leave the city. Well, I only judged him based on his appearances. The knight furrowed his brows as he confirmed, "Are you sure he had silver hair and had a mark on the left side of his face?" The knight thought, I guess that black hair was his disguise. The hotel owner asked confusingly, "Yes. What's the problem?" The knight sighed as spoke to other knights, "I guess he already left the city. Now it would be quite hard to track him. I hope I don't get scolded by Lord Alistair." From the looks of it, this assassination was done by Grey of Blucia House, however we can't confirm it as no one saw him. Well, we can still look for other places to confirm it. Come, let's go. Chapter 123. Alistair meanwhile read the report as he murmured, "It seems they were quite cautious as they made a point to use that assassin. A perfect, fast and precise assassination, unlike those buffoons. Well, they still completed their job, I can't blame them." Alistair reported the same to Prince Hector to calm him down. Prince Hector roared angrily as he heard the report, "Damn that demon Vlad, always interfering in my business. It seems that Count got help from Blucia House this time around. This celebration is fully ruined. That Count will certainly pay for so many offences against me." The nobles were gossiping on this event. "Looks like it was a show of power from that Count this time around. I wonder if I can get that weapon from him. It would be quite useful to kill my brother to become an heir of the house. This weapon is quite convenient even against your political enemies. Plus I don't think I will be participating in this raid against that Count, as he seems very powerful just by watching his means. I recently heard that Duke Fjord's fleet also suffered some losses at the hands of Morgan fleet. So I would like to be cautious this time around." The second noble spoke cautiously, "Shh, those knights are searching for that assassin in every house like rabid dogs. Be careful so that you don't get hurt by them. And don't even think about that new weapon. Even the royal family would be salivating over it." The third noble said, "The incident of Duke Fjord was only an accident in the sea because of negligence from crew members. Even that Count or Morgan family has never confirmed regarding this matter. Additionally, Duke Fjord also said that some miscreants are only spreading rumors to create chaos." Another one smiled as he spoke, "Well, who knows, anything can be the truth. There can be some truth to it, as some people from their own navy confirmed it." In a meeting conference at the administrative headquarters. Currently, there were Taylor, John, Jake, and Tornwall present. John commented after watching the prototype, "It seems this was quite a better prototype than I actually expected. You really made a good weapon this time, and it was in time. Now we can use those archers with full use if a war occurs. Also, start training them in the new archery skill that I created just recently. Call Redbeard, as you will be needed in 2 projects from now on, 1. The clock tower, and 2. The production of guns. The first one to be armed right now would be Jake's men. Is that clear?" Everyone nodded, yes. John then continued after watching everyone's approval, "Now, we will be preparing for winter, which is in 2 months. So I want production lines and production of guns to be as fast as possible. Tornwall, you will be needed to train more people, as we will be involved in a lot of more industries. Meanwhile, I will be focusing on the pharmacy industry and potions because of that previous incident with Radiant Church. I just want to be on a safe side in case they decide to react. I am sure they will target us as soon as we hit winter and when everyone starts their schemes. Tornwall murmured as he heard John, it will be a tough ride this time around with so many responsibilities. John smiled and spoke, how about free wine for 6 months and 2 new wines exclusive for you? You will have free access to it for 6 months? Are you fired up now? Tornwall laughed, ha ha ha, that would be great. There is that demon boy Tim who is quite enthusiastic on becoming a great forger. He works hard and has the right attitude to explore new things. I guess I will nurture him from now on. John then ordered Taylor, you will be in charge of managing, allocating funds for the new factory and all the raw materials required to make the guns. You will also need to stockpile strategic resources for these guns, i.e. saltpeter in secret. Taylor, you will also be in charge of stockpiling all the types of herbs and ingredients in case we face an emergency. We were already able to connect with a lot of herbologists because of our deal with the royal family. However, we will still increase hiring them. The royal family won't mind since this move would only be against the Radiant Church, so you don't need to worry about the royal family. John then gazed Jake and ordered him, Jake, you will be in charge of its security and privacy of this gun factory. It would decide the future of our domain once and for all. Everyone saluted and kneeled and answered as they heard this for the first time. John, yes, my lord. Everyone gasped as they heard John and understood that this was a very important project. John, so Tornwall, have you done any other modifications to this gun like you did to the ballista last time around? I don't want you to hide this time around as I want to be prepared before the volcanoes burst. Tornwall shook his head as he spoke, no, I just recently finished making this prototype. Actually it's quite easy as this gun is small and so are the projectiles, we could modify it with much fewer problems. We can actually hire or contract basic rune masters to modify our bullets. So it would be good and take low energy required. John thought and asked, however, isn't it too small? I think mastery would be more difficult, though they won't require a lot of energy. I think they would need a lot of practice. Tornwall nodded, true, I didn't think too much into it. Well, we can still upgrade the guns with runes and by using magic steel to upgrade it. John thought and nodded, it seems I will have to look into that. Well, the meeting is adjourned. All of you will be having additional work from now on, so better don't slack off. Ambassador Luke heard the report from one of his men, Mr. Sylvan was assassinated in broad daylight by an assassin at Prince Hector's celebration of his new soap machines. The weapon could not be identified, but it was a projectile that was imbued with magic. Luke sighed as he heard the scout, I guess this would be quite humiliating for Prince Hector as he intended to show his spying prowess in the whole kingdom, and now this face slapping. Previously that assassination attempt on Count and now this, I wonder how is the temper of Prince Hector right now. Luke then asked the scout to continue, anyway continue about that weapon. Any more information on that weapon? The scout continued after hearing him, there is no information regarding it, but from our sources, we heard that Vlad's right-hand man Gray was the one who executed this deed as witnessed by the hotel owner where he stayed. He was mainly recognized by his scar and silver hair in the nearby towns after his visit to Greedos. Lord Alistair said that this weapon was quite peculiar as it was a lot stronger than normal ranged weapons, and this projectile too was runic from the looks of it. He guessed that this weapon was a miniature version of the ballista made with magic steel especially, or upgraded with runes. Luke nodded. Alistair's hypothesis can be true as this weapon was most likely used by Grey, and I don't think Vlad would hesitate on using magic steel to equip his important men in weapons at least. Well, it was still good as there was less violence this time around, unlike the times when he uses his swords. However, even if this weapon was a miniature version of that ballista, it would be very heavy to carry it openly. I wonder what sort of trick did they use it to hide so easily? Did they have an engineering team in Greedos to help Grey this time around? Well, tell Alistair to check the town for spies or engineering professionals who recently moved near that hotel at Greedos where he stayed. Chapter 124. The scout, Lord Alistair already ordered his men to search the area and they concluded that there weren't any new additions of spies or professionals to the town. Nowadays, people are mostly moving towards North Frontier town lured by lucrative money and standard of living. Alistair nodded and gave him a letter addressed to the king. I guess he is not Hector's strategist for nothing. Well, anyway, take this report and give it along with my letter to His Majesty at the capital about the current events. Scout, okay, my lord. In Count Casey's domain a few days after Sylvan's assassination. Count Casey was quite shocked after watching Sylvan's assassination. He spoke to Rob and Chris as they had gathered today at his mansion. I think I need to create some distance between Duke and myself. I don't want to get implicated if that crazy Count gets angry thinking I am providing him help. I recently heard he even survived an assassination from the Templars of the Radiant Church. That guy has a lot of dreadful weapons. Who knows when my number is on those weapons if I piss him off just because I am friends with Duke Norman. I would rather make Prince Hector my enemy instead of that Count. Viscount Rob too nodded as he heard Casey. Well, you don't need to worry that much, Casey. That Count isn't this petty, as I heard a lot of good things about him from his men. However, he is someone who doesn't like people targeting his loved ones. To be honest, those weapons of his are quite dreadful if he can make them in huge quantities. I wonder how Baron Mendez is feeling right now. From what I know, those captured Templars will face a big ordeal now. The biggest mistake they did was targeting Melanie's great-granddaughter, Eva. I heard she is one of his first friends when he came to North Frontier City. Well, Chris, what do you think of Baron Mendez's position now? I think he was already pissing his pants after he saw Sylvan's assassination, right? Would you still like his position with no power and control right now? Chers nodded as he explained. I guess Casey was right earlier when he said Baron Mendez was in a very delicate position. I never expected this Count to be so defiant and have so many means against his enemies. However, this will only create more enemies as the royals always take their face very seriously. I guess I too will sit on fence after watching this show. I don't want to die such an ugly death because of choosing the wrong side. However, I am more concerned about Radiant Church as Prince Hector can't maneuver more because the royal family wouldn't want to act against that Count before getting their hands on those weapons and fully tested blueprints. Rob laughed as he spoke. Well, I won't worry too much about Count John and his actions. What I see is him reacting to the provocations of others and slapping their faces very tightly. Anyway, I recently heard that those old men from the Imperial University are quite unhappy because of all the new books coming in the market from Count John's domain. They also don't like the fact that poor commoners are getting a chance to educate themselves as well. Chris thought and explained, I think they are more pissed by the fact that Count John is pouring loads of money for educating all of his domain while earning the goodwill of the masses at the same time, and not particularly by commoners, as this is also reducing their power and influence. I think they believe that their influence will deteriorate later on when all these commoners come mainstream in literature, arts, war, strategy, and various other fields. The very fact that the new books are being printed is the fact that more teachers are now willing to go and teach at Rose Institute, as they are trying to show the facts that they capable of fulfilling their demands. However, I didn't see any radical or controversial books from Black and White Publishers. I think that was the name of that printing press. I guess they are treading this path very carefully, as they don't want to anger the royal family for now and are only publishing conservative works for now. Rob too nodded. Bought a newspaper to show them. Yeah, I read one of those books from Mr. Prague which described the culture, people, and way of life of the people living at North Frontier City. It was quite interesting. I heard they also released this thing called the newspaper so that people can get news about internal matters and external matters outside the city. However, it is mostly regarding the internal matters of the city. I bought one of these when I visited them. However, the thing called newspaper is mostly controlled by the administrative headquarters, and I heard it was his butler Taylor who directed the direction, at least in regards to the external policy. Meanwhile, Glenn is one of the guys who is handling the internal news of the city while keeping people informed. Because of the release of these newspapers, common people as well are also getting more interested in studying and reading those newspapers themselves. This has also opened opportunities for a new field called journalists in that domain. Chris smiled and spoke as he heard about newspapers from Rob. I can now understand why the Radiant Church is so keen on this printing press, as they want to spread their teachings hard, soft and fast. I guess traders and officials are the ones who buy those newspapers the most, as they can get the latest news regarding the policies of the city from the paper instead of heading to the administrative headquarters every day to confirm the latest news with respect to trade and new opportunities. Quite a convenient tool of communication and persuasion. I guess this is one of the reasons that those old men at the Imperial University can't wait to get their hands on this technology. I too will change my strategy and start investing in this town. Just looking at this paper is giving me so many ideas for profit. However, Casey, you need to be careful, as you can't be blatant in defying Prince Hector. You two are landlocked, so you should communicate with them secretly. I guess Baron Mendez is contemplating on how to resolve this situation, because I think he too understands that Count John won't forget this type of thuggery at the Eastern Port. Casey nodded. Well, I was doing that already from the start after Prince Lukov's announcement, however I was quite afraid. Now too I am afraid that Radiant Church might get pissed if they discover my position on this matter and have a shot at me, as I am sure that the previous hit on Count John was given with the approval from top men of the Radiant Church. As for the opportunities in North Frontier City, I have invested in the real estate market, as there are those new mansions with that new agent, and I would like a luxurious, more sturdy mansion. If those men could provide us their services at my domain, then I would have generously paid them, whether it is new types of furniture, architecture, or those new gardens and pools they have designed. The peculiar thing about that city is the new types of inventions they are doing frequently, which excites people. I really envy that Count for having such an amount of creative people under his belt. Chris smiled and spoke. Well, part of the reason is his presence, as he is one leading the town when it comes to new creations. Take their soaps, papers or cuisines for example, right? Casey sighed. I guess this is true, because just previously that town was just a barren land that Baron Mendez was just itching to sell because of the impending danger. Well, that impending danger is still looming over their heads. I guess big players will start moving after the start of winter, as there would be an opportunity at that time. I need to be most careful at that time. Anyway, I plan to start my business over there, as there can be a big potential in that town even in the short run. The mulberry and sand business in itself is such a big opportunity for me to earn big bucks. Pope David this time heard about the failure of assassination from his knight Calvin at the Radiant Palace in Radiant City. Calvin gave his report to Pope. They have caught Francis and the other guy this time around, while the other assassins were killed by that Count in their earlier encounter. The assassins even made the perfect decisions this time around, as they targeted him when he was with Eva, whom he had to protect. However, he had quite acute senses and combat ability, as he was able to protect her and kill the assassins. How do we respond to this matter, as Francis is in his hands now? Pope nodded as he heard the report from Calvin. This seems quite humiliating. Francis should have escaped if he wasn't able to handle that Count and his men. Considering he is his disciple, this will be quite a stain on his reputation. Well, write him a letter saying that as long as he gives Francis appropriate treatment and stops engaging with demons, especially Vlad and Prince Lukov, then he can get anything he wants. Well, write it in a way where we aren't lowering our head, and it is his honor that this letter is personally addressed by the Pope to him. We will deal with him later on when the winter starts. Robert's plan is also approved, and all the cardinals too feel the importance of a printing press, as we can use it for propaganda. We are already watching the effects of that printing press in the literature circles, and this is quite alarming. However, there is one problem: people are illiterate, so it will be hard delivering God's message to them in writing. I guess we can still educate our priests and have them get the Bibles at least. Anyway, inform Robert that his plan has been approved and we can allocate them the funds and power required later on. And bring that letter to me first after it is prepared. Chapter 125. Knight Calvin nodded and agreed. Okay, my lord. Pope stopped before going and asked about a certain matter. is there any other news from Felix's end or any other important news? Calvin, well, Prince Hector's spy Sylvan was openly assassinated by men of Blucia house. This was particularly carried out by Grey. However, the most peculiar thing about this assassination was the way it was carried out and the weapon of use. Pope furrowed his brows and asked him, what is the peculiarity? How does this assassination even matter? Isn't he and his team fully capable of carrying it out? And what about the weapon? Calvin then explained to him about the particularity of the mini ballista. This time a new weapon was used and even I too feel that it is quite threatening. I am more afraid of Prince Lukov getting his hands on that weapon and use it against us. You know that he has a big grudge against us for the previous incident. Pope furrowed his brows as he heard him. It seems this count is really dangerous to our plans. Keep a more tough tone in the letter. Never mind, I will personally write him the letter. The very fact that he has good relations with Prince Lukov is a very bad sign for us. Ideologically that count is too open and against our doctrines, we can't close our eyes as he corrupts people openly. Even if we keep good relations with him, he will be fatal to us in the long run. We too will act against him in the winter with Robert. Tell Duke Fjord that we can provide him funds for his upcoming war and we will also terminate our services in that count's domain as we did at Prince Lukov's domain previously when we ransacked him 5 years ago. That plan would have succeeded and he would have died if not for his instincts and his crazy mind. Calvin asked him cautiously as he asked him about a taboo subject, are you sure, my lord? Some cardinals might be against this as we will make that count completely our enemy like we did Prince Lukov during our last conspiracy. We lost a lot of men when we conspired against him. The cardinals still lament making Prince Lukov our enemy. Pope showed a cunning smile as he said, well, they don't lament us making him our enemy but they lament him becoming one of our biggest enemies and dying to my conspiracy. Anyway, we won't be commencing our plans immediately but it would be in the future. And most of the cardinals would anyway agree to my proposal later on in the next meeting as most of them hate demons. Plus knowing the nature of this count if he knows that I gave the hit on him then I too will be in danger as this guy is quite impulsive. Additionally cardinals know the nature and report on this count so they understand that he is a big danger to us. Anyway, we can use his impulse in our favor. Make sure to personally deliver my letter to that count or his important officials. If that count gets scared then we don't need to worry as he won't be much of a big deal, it would be more troublesome if he acts like Prince Lukov. Pope showed a cunning face as he mentioned the letter. Calvin gave a meaningful smile as he nodded, understood my lord. I will convey your meaning and proposal to all the cardinals for the next meeting. As for Prince Felix, he is currently gathering forces for his next invasion of the Western Beastlands and at the same time, he and his are still continuously training. However, he believes that we should kill that count complete once and for all or make him our ally as he feels he is very dangerous from the way he is allying with demons and Prince Lukov. He believes we can use him to kill Prince Lukov. Pope nodded and dismissed him, okay, I will keep that in mind, tell him that we are going for his kill for now as he is a danger for both of us. Calvin, you can leave now. Templar assassin. One of the men from Ghosts interrogated the head, you still aren't opening your mouth at. Francis mocked and spoke, this small torture is nothing to me. Our torture training themselves were tougher than the torture you guys give us. The man smiled as he understood the psychological games these guys like to play, well, the other guy can still speak even if you don't want to. Meanwhile, your fate will be worse than death. You know our Lord is quite pissed this time around. Don't expect anything less than what you have seen like the people who suffered at the hands of Prince Lukov. You know about his deeds, right? Francis mocked him and gave him an eye, well, empty words. No action, all bark. Even that prince is a nobody in front of us Templar assassins, our Pope single-handedly ruined that lunatic's plans of marrying demonkin and removed his power all those years ago. As for your lord, he will die anyway because he chose the wrong side to support and put his pride before his life. The spy asked him as he saw that Francis started speaking in his ego, I heard that Prince Lukov wasn't a lunatic all those years ago. Francis watched the spy with a disgustful look and spoke, of course he was. Anyone dealing with demons and other inferior species is a lunatic, including you guys. The good thing was, he was naive politically and hence never had any power. Most of his work was handled by his butler. However, I guess he got ruthless with experience. We miscalculated when that event 7 years ago took place. Well, we still made sure that his reputation was ruined. Spy asked him confusingly, but how did ruining his reputation matter anymore, as he truly became what you guys spoke before he took all those actions? Francis understood and harumphed, you think you are smart? Don't try to open my mouth, who knows whether I am lying or not. As for your lord, he might have already gotten instructions from Pope David to free me or face the music for his actions. Look, he will beg before me to make a good word in front of Pope so that our tensions can be reduced. The spy laughed as he thought, I wonder, because from what I know about Lord, he is someone who hates threats the most. Threatening even privately hasn't boded well for anyone in the past or present. Anyway, since you guys are so strong, then why are you afraid to not tell about the one who ordered our Lord's assassination? The spy thought, the very fact that your men tried to kill him in the presence of Mistress Eva was your death nail. He has already started taking action against you guys privately. The very fact that they invested so aggressively these days in Medicine Institute proves this fact. While hiring more light magicians in case they face a crisis. Francis laughed as he heard him, that trick won't work, because, from our long history, we know that even a small mosquito can be fatal and be your death. We are guys that are cautious in not revealing our plans to our enemies easily. The spy then ended his interrogation, well, we still have your partner, I wonder how much he can resist, because from our looks he is already near exhaustion because he hasn't slept for 4 days. He will spill the beans real soon. As for you, I can guarantee that you too will spill the beans when Lord starts his own torture. He might be someone who is generous, but he is also someone who will not forgive his enemies. Chapter 126. Jack was in John's office after such a long time. John asked Jack with a meaningful gaze, are you sure, Jack? Isn't your family against you allying with me? Do you really want to go against your family? Jack sighed and said with a determined will, yes, I am pretty much sure this time around. Since Joseph can make a hard decision, I too would have to take a hard decision. Well, Joseph still has more support from his father. And as Joseph said, big risks, big gains, I guess I am following that rule. And I would only be hindered at my family, so I guess I want to get power without my family. John nodded and reminded him, however, in his opposition, there is his grandfather and his brothers. Well, the same goes for you plus your father. He is a real cautious guy. I guess he is cautious because most of your family's business is in the north, and allying with me would mean you guys are against Duke Norman, which would be very fatal for your business. I guess he is already pissed because of the soap trading your family is conducting right now. Jack agreed and spoke, that's true, my brothers and cousins too are using this as a pretext so that I can't compete in the snake family. However, I am thinking about the bigger picture right now, so I guess I need to take more risks. Additionally, a lot of people don't like me earning more money because of this soap trade. As I have already made many enemies, so I don't think more enemies would matter as I make this choice. From now on I will be investing in this town aggressively, as I intend to make this my headquarters and intend to make this my base of operations for the future. John nodded as he gave a letter and spoke, okay, then you will be in charge of the logistics department and northern trade for North Frontier Town. We are already short of capable people and Taylor can't handle everything. It will better if he reduces his burden a bit. You can use your connections and always use those guys who are not in the race for becoming heads in their family or marginalized to increase our connections and trade. Here is your appointment. You can ask Joseph for any information regarding the logistics department, as he is the head of the Ministry of Commerce. You need to be prepared for retaliation from your family, as they wouldn't like to be associated with you after this appointment. They would most likely announce that they have cut relations with you, as most of your brothers and cousins would pressure your family, as they would most likely comply. Today Taylor is out for some business, so you can meet him later on. Jack nodded and left his office. Okay, I will be investigating this town for more business opportunities. I will meet Taylor later on. I will be leaving for now. One of the heads from prison reported to John as he entered his office later. Lord, they still haven't said anything these few days. Only the other guy is speaking. John nodded and gave him orders. I guess we need to start using those new tools and my new drugs so that they lose their willpower. Start from each body part, as each body part will give them psychological fear and their mind will say to agree to us so that they can be relieved. Call Redbeard and tell him to bring those new tools that I told earlier to be made. Take this letter and show him, he will understand. Prison head, Lord, there is also a letter from the Pope of Radiant Church over the previous matter by someone named Knight Calvin. His entourage was quite overbearing this time around when they handed in the letter. They are saying that there will be big consequences if that guy Francis isn't handed over. It seems he has some relation to someone in the higher-ups of the Radiant Church. John angrily harumphed as he heard about them. Who do they think they are? Bring in that letter, let me see what is their tone and what are their demands. I will decide if they can be given a merciful death or something which will be remembered by the Radiant Church. They need to be taught a lesson for targeting me so brazenly. As for that guy Francis, I will make sure he leaves his faith in public and makes a complete mockery out of the Radiant Church. As for the consequences, I am quite well prepared this time around. I won't be calming down until I get the head of the one who tried to assassinate me and Eva. Prison head nodded and headed to bring the letter. Okay, sir. Meanwhile, John was reading the letter of Pope. Vlad came in from the window and commented as John read the letter, "It looks like you are looking for blood. You were never this angry even when you dueled Antonio." John sighed as he read the letter. Well, this time it is different. I have realized one fact, that I have to get stronger if I have to survive in this cruel world and have to deal in kind with my enemies. Why are you here, Master? Is there something you needed? Vlad gave him a bit of good news. Well, that other guy has started speaking and he has said that one of the cardinals ordered your assassination because of your relations with us and your overall policies. However, there is one discrepancy. John asked confusingly, what is it? Vlad gave him a document about the cardinal's activities. Our men had spied that cardinal thoroughly and we haven't found any evidence suggesting he gave the hit on you. I guess they intentionally fed wrong information to other guys so that the truth can be hidden. I guess the other guy most probably knows the mastermind. Anyway, I heard the Pope wrote to you. What is it about? John asked him about the tools and showed Vlad. Master, what do you think about using these tools in torture? I think they have quite a big psychological impact on the spies who like to keep their mouth shut. I think we can use it fully against our enemies. Vlad looked at the tools a bit confusingly, but then John explained to him one by one. Vlad then understood and asked, I can understand the usage of other tools like that hammer, the thumbscrew, the pendulum knife, but what is with that feather? John smiled as he said, I didn't explain to you intentionally. Guess how can it be used? Vlad laughed as he spoke. I guess it can only be used to tickle. I don't see any other use apart from that. However, can it really be used in torture? John nodded and then explained as he brought out a drug. Well, it is exactly for tickling, but it is for tickle torture. Anything, more than something, can really be painful. You can see its results. Well, I ain't using this on that arrogant assassin. Well, it is just for fun. I will be going to visit that prisoner now, Master. Let's see how much he can stand the torture and this drug. This drug and the feather can make quite a combination. Vlad confusingly watched the potion and asked about its usage. What's that drug? John smiled and showed a cruel smile. It is a drug that can increase the sensitiveness of the body by 100 times for half a day. I want to see how much he can resist after consuming this drug. Since he is related to a big shot, it would be more fun. Let's see how the Radiant Church intends to save that guy's honor after that arrogant tone. Vlad asked confusingly, what was in the letter that enraged you so much? Aren't they always arrogant? John handed him the letter and spoke gravely, have a look at it and you will understand. Vlad, read the letter. Let me read it first. Count John, this is an order from the Pope of the Radiant Church to free the 2 priests of the Radiant Church. Any mistreatment on your part towards them could lead to actions unrepairable for our uncertain future. However, this can be solved if you cut your ties to the demonic Blucia house and help us in the capture of that demon Vlad and the mistress of Blucia house, Miss Diana. Then you can get unprecedented honor, wealth, and access to Radiant Church's power and connections. You can make your decision anytime you want. You would also have to give us information on Prince Lukov's latest movements. These 2 conditions must be met if you don't wish to make us, the Radiant Church, as your biggest enemy. Meanwhile, Francis is the disciple of one of the cardinals, St. Paul, so I hope you give him treatment worthy enough to his status. I hope you take the right decision and try not to jeopardize your life. Vlad sighed as, it seems they are using the carrot and stick method while using a forceful tone. I guess there will be scenes this time around, as the Pope seems he is entitled that his men should be treated immediately and given a kingly welcome. As for them targeting Diana, it seems they again need to be taught a lesson. I guess they want to use Diana as a hostage. Vlad spoke this with a ruthless glint when he heard that they were targeting her mistress. Chapter 127. Inside the prison cell of Francis currently. John just arrived as he saw the mood. Francis pointed to the spy as he saw John and spoke, it seems he already got the letter. See, as I said, he is already going to do what the Pope and Cardinals have ordered him. The very fact that I am the disciple of Cardinal St. Paul must have made him think twice before committing any actions against me and my men. As soon as John came in the cell, Francis spoke to John in an arrogant, "Come, Count John, are you here to apologize or defy again against me? Remember this, your actions will have consequences if you defy us. Your position already is in jeopardy because of Prince Hector and Duke Fjord. Do you really want to make the Radiant Church as your enemy as well?" John didn't bother as he ordered the spy from Ghosts, "Ross, feed him this drug. I have personally made this drug. It will increase his sensitivity by 100 times, whether it is pain or pleasure or other things." The spy named Ross immediately followed the orders. "Yes, my lord, at your orders immediately." Ross immediately forcefully fed him the drug as Francis struggled and resisted. Francis resisted as he mocked them, "What is this, another petty torture poison of yours? Haven't you guys already tried enough?" Spy smiled as he spoke, "Your mate has already started speaking. Now, you two will speak. I will make sure to break your faith for the Radiant Church. In front of absolute power, even your God won't help you. You know dying is easy if you die in an instant, however resisting pain and torture for a long time is hard both physically and mentally." Francis laughed as he smiled and mocked them. Well, what he said still won't be the truth, because many a time illusions are better than truth. Francis then continued, "It seems you guys have made your decision to defy the Radiant Church." Ross smiled as he spoke, "We already know that what he was saying wasn't the truth, and hence we came here today. You can still be freed as long as you can say the name of the mastermind. Was it your master or someone else? As for defying the Radiant Church, you guys were too arrogant this time when they should have softened the tone when your Pope requested something. You see, Lord is someone who will treat someone with respect if he is treated with respect. He is someone who likes reciprocity. I guess you were unlucky this time around, as Pope himself wrote this letter. Anyway, Lord himself will speak to you now." John then smiled and asked Francis, "You still have one last time to say the name before you still have a chance. It would be too late for you later on when the torture begins." Francis mocked as thought about small torture he faced earlier. "Humph! Whom are you threatening? You are just a nobody and an upstart, Count. You will anyway be decimated in more than a year even if you are able to resist. If you are foolish enough to make us your enemy as well, then I guess your foolishness would know no bound. Be smart and release me immediately or face the music." John first used the thumbscrew on his thumb as he spoke to Francis in a ruthless manner. Looking at your stubbornness, I guess it is someone high in your council who ordered my hit. This is very more reason that I can't trust your radiant church. Let's see how you can tolerate the effect of this drug and resist the pain. The moment his thumb got inserted into the thumbscrew, he screamed as if his life was draining this time as he began to feel tremendous amounts of pain in his thumbs. The effect of the drug was very surprising to everyone present in the cell. Ross was most shocked as he never saw Francis screaming like this in the 2 days they tortured him. John didn't stop as he continued to torture him. John smiled as he spoke, "This is the effect of this new drug. You can still resist, you know. I will gladly increase the pressure and I have just started." John then hammered his fingers one by one slowly as Francis screamed hoarsely. Francis lost 2 of his fingers on his right hand. He was in extreme pain as he resisted his urge to show any weakness in front of John. However, he couldn't as he felt fear for the first time here at the prison. John continued, "You don't want to lose your eyes, do you? Or would you like to get castrated publicly as Prince Lukov does it so often to the dogs of Radiant Church or those knights he usually executes? You see, I only need one name. As long as you give the right name, you won't have to suffer this humiliation." Francis shrugged as he humphed. Francis thought, "If I name him I would be in big danger myself. I will at least die with honor here." John bought a short sword as he saw Francis's stubbornness. He came near him and whispered, "I heard you were quite a lustful guy from the other guy. I guess you don't like your wiener anymore. As you prioritize saving the ass of someone else, I will gladly help you sacrifice your wiener." Francis was really terrified this time around when he saw John's cruel smile as he thought, John was quite serious this time around and he didn't want to suffer the same pain which he experienced today after losing 2 of his fingers after John continued his torture. He already pissed his pants at the thought of castration. Francis thought as he saw John's cruel smile, No, I can't take this humiliation. This guy seems as crazy as that madman. He might really cut my dick off. God, why was I sent to do this mission and face such humiliation?" Francis tried to calm down and speak, I will speak. I only have one condition." John smiled as he moved his short sword near his dick as he spoke, "You see, you are not in a position to make any conditions to me. I am quite angry this time around with your arrogance. You see, there will always be consequences of angering me." Francis immediately said as he knew that this was his last chance, "It was the new Pope, David. He ordered us to assassinate you. He was also the one who gave us information on you guys. Please don't castrate me. I have already said what you wanted. I hope Lord John keeps his word." Ross too was quite shocked this time around as he saw fear for the first time in the eyes of Francis. Ross was also shocked by the fact that his lord seemed quite scary if he was angered. He thought, "I guess Lord is quite angry this time around. It seems he is quite prepared to face the Radiant Church this time around." John nodded as he was convinced that Francis wasn't lying. He smiled and said, "It seems you really aren't lying. Okay, I won't castrate, however you will have to denounce your faith publicly if you want to be freed and not lose your eyes." John this time gave 2 bottles of this drug to Ross as he instructed him, "Keep this drug in case you meet any stubborn prisoners in the future. This would be effective for half a day. It will increase the sensitiveness of the body by 100 times whether it is pleasure or pain. You must also target their weakness if you want them to open their mouths. If you are in need of them in the future, then go to the pharmacy warehouse to restock it. The name of this drug is Schadenfreude, Wonder Drug. Yes, it is called the Wonder Drug." Ross immediately answered, "Yes, sir." Francis was silent this time around as he didn't show his previous arrogant behavior. His silence also indicated that he agreed to the terms of John this time around. Francis meanwhile thought, "This count is just as lunatic as that prince. This guy is really dangerous if we get in a big conflict with this guy. He will reduce the morale of the whole church if we get into a fight with him. He seemed like he would really castrate me with that drug on my body. I need to be careful to not anger him anymore, who knows he would go back on his word. John ordered Ross, meanwhile, report to Taylor that later on both of these guys will make a public announcement later on, so he needs to make enough preparations for their show. Ross thought as he saw the whole scene, it seems Lord is prepared to confront the Radiant Church, as it was the Pope who personally ordered John's assassination this time around. Ross nodded and reported, "Okay, my lord, I will immediately convey these orders to Mr. Taylor. He would most probably be checking and inspecting the farms now that winter is near." John also reminded him, "Meanwhile I will also be increasing my time spent in Grandma Melanie's pharmacy nowadays, as I will be increasing the rate of experiments on various diseases from now on. We are officially treating Radiant Church as our enemy from now on. Convey this message to all of our head officials. As our city is growing day by day, there will also be a logistics department from now on. Jack will be in charge of collecting all the strategic supplies from now on. He has already left his family to fully invest in our city from now on. However, his family is quite stubborn, as they want to wait out this winter, while he, just like Joseph, has taken his own decision. I met him already and his appointment is done. Inform all of them." Ross nodded and left after taking the orders. Later that afternoon, people in the city were gossiping as they saw Taylor making preparations for a show. It seems there will be quite a show this time around, as even Taylor is personally handling this work. It is most likely related to Lord. I heard Lord is quite pissed with the arrogant tone of the Radiant Church this time, and he is intending to teach them a lesson. My brother is one of the prison guards. He told me that assassin was St. Paul's disciple, and Lord was quite pissed with his arrogant tone. You might have not known, but he pissed his pants when he saw that Lord was serious about cutting off his body parts. You can wait for a big show today. It seems Lord is ready to confront Radiant Church. I guess we all should be prepared as well. Lord is most likely pissed by the fact that some big shot in the Radiant Church ordered his hit while targeting his friends. Looks like both of the assassins will face a big humiliation today. Especially that arrogant guy who was caught that day. I wonder how the Radiant Church would react after this. It seems that this would be second after Prince Lukov that someone is intending to humiliate Radiant Church in the public so openly, and that too St. Paul's disciple. Chapter 128. Giorgio looked at the podium and said to his underling, "It looks he really is intending to confront Radiant Church. I guess Prince Lukov would be quite happy this time around. Go and immediately inform this news to Prince." It seems both of them have the same amount of temper when it comes to their enemies. Taylor arrived at the podium with both the prisoners and announced the start of proceedings. Taylor started his announcement, "We have an important announcement for all of you guys over here. As you might know, these are the same guys who tried to assassinate Lord John and Miss Eva a few days back. Today these men will be judged according to their actions." The locals started throwing tomatoes and eggs on both of these guys as soon as they heard that these guys were the ones who were responsible for the previous assassination attempt and the chaos these men created. Taylor signaled to quieten the crowd and continued, Ahem, our Lord has promised to give them freedom as long as they renounce their faith in public. Or else they would be executed or kept alive for further torture." One of the spectators commented after hearing Taylor's announcement, "It looks like both will suffer whether they are dead or alive. If they are alive after this ordeal and freed, the Radiant Church will hunt them for renouncing their faith." Both of them were on their knees with chains on their heads, legs and hands. Taylor asked both in them in front of people, "You already know that our Lord is merciful and will keep his word as long as you keep your word. The time has come for your decision? Have you decided?" The first guy was in extreme dilemma, as he knew that as soon as he renounced his faith in public, he would be hunted by the Radiant Church and their followers so that he doesn't bring more humiliation to them. He sighed and thought, "I guess I can still run if I renounce my faith, or I will die with that sort of pain in the prison cell or over here. That Francis would most likely be safe as he has a bigger backing, but what about me? I guess I was always a pawn in the hands of the Radiant Church to meet their targets. Maybe I should offer more information to this count so that I can run into another country with a good amount of money. Well, I was still better off from what I heard from the guards, as that count didn't personally deal with me. He announced in front of everyone with a heartfelt tone, I was distracted by my superiors at the Radiant Church and hence my offense against Lord Count. I would like to apologize for my offense against both Lord Count and Miss Eva. I am also renouncing my faith as a servant of the Radiant Lord with my own will. The very fact that he didn't kill me immediately after targeting Miss Eva reflects his generosity and my sincere apology. One of the priests cursed as soon as he heard his announcement, damn it, how can he humiliate us like that in public like that? Doesn't he feel any gratitude for all the nurturing we did for him? Taylor smiled as he asked him, my lord will keep his word as promised. You are free from now on. Would you like to go with your superiors or on your own? He replied without hesitating, I will walk on my own. Taylor smiled as he understood his meaning and signaled his men to free him, okay. I hope you are safe in your journey from now on. Ambassador Luke murmured as he saw the ongoing show, it seems they are ready to confront the Radiant Church this time around. Isn't he worried that Radiant Church might immediately cut off their services in North Frontier City? As expected, he defied their arrogant tone. Well, it is always better to not trust those men in holy clothes pretending to be holy. They will bite you back the moment they can see a chance to occupy power and resources. Just fake men. Simon saw the scene as he spoke to Pallet, it seems true that this count is quite an arrogant man. Even Lord Hector doesn't dare to diss the Radiant Church in public in fear of getting refused for their services in his cities. Well, we can still make an ally out of this incident. This count would anyway have to choose between demons or the Radiant Church. I guess he trusts demons more as he got acquainted with them earlier. Pallet heard him as he spoke, I heard the Fire Abyss Prince is recently trying to court the royal family and Prince Hector. He was more interested in the printing technology of that count. Because of this, even the king is contemplating on the importance of that technology, as even the Radiant Church expressed a big interest in it from the start. The Fire Abyss Kingdom are also trying to contact Duke Fjord, but that Shorty has more connections to the dwarves as they are near his domain and hence his reluctance. Taylor then moved near Francis, who was in chains, and asked him while giving him a warning, so what is your decision? However, you don't have to worry as you won't be executed immediately if you choose to decline Lord's offer right now. From Taylor's tone and words, Francis understood between the lines that if he rejects, then he may face the previous ordeal again and might lose his dick. Francis bit his teeth and thought, let's see how much you run amok after I am freed to the Radiant Church. This humiliation will be paid 100-fold by this Templar. Count John, you will regret this day your whole life. This arrogant count will pay for his insolence for humiliating us, the Radiant Church, in such a way. No one apart from that lunatic Lookoff has dared to humiliate us in such a way, even privately. Francis then looked at his partner aside and wondered, and it seems, he is fearing the retaliation of the Radiant Church since he chose to go alone on his own. Can't help it. He will most likely be assassinated or he will leave the kingdom. Francis then spoke in an arrogant manner so as to seem defiant, and doing this against his will, I accept your lord's offer. I did a grave offense by targeting Lord John and his woman. I publicly renounce my faith in Radiant Church as I was ordered to complete my mission by the Radiant Church. I hope your lord keeps his word. Taylor again asked him, it doesn't seem that you are reflecting on the previous incident like the other guy. Do you want to go back into your cell and have a new experience with Wonder Drug? As soon as he heard about the Wonder Drug, he remembered the torture he received previously and that he nearly lost his dick and immediately spoke timidly, no, please don't take me back to that cell. I mean seriously, I sincerely apologize to Lord John for my offense against him and his people. I also publicly renounce my faith in Radiant Church. I hope Lord John can be merciful and forgive me. While talking, one of the half-beast boys threw a piece of rock at Francis. There was another boy with him who looked like a demon of the same age. Francis was quite angry, however he kept his anger in control. John too watched the half-human beast child as the show was going on. The child was a boy around 12-year-old, however, it seemed that he had a grudge with the Radiant Church when he threw the rock. John smiled as he saw Francis's fear in public and ordered, "Okay, your men are already here. You can go back with them if you wish. Remember this, you guys won't be getting the bodies of other assassins." Francis timidly nodded without matching his eyes with John and spoke, "I will go back with them." Ambassador Lukov murmured, "It seems Lord John also loves the thought of making them renounce their faith in public. There will be quite a show on how the Radiant Church tries to save Francis's reputation. It also looks like Francis quite fears Count John in that prison cell. I guess he faced some horrors which he doesn't want to experience and share, and hence his timid attitude. I guess the show is over, however there will still be big one later on. I don't think the Radiant Church ever expected to face this sort of humiliation from this upstart. No, I shouldn't call him upstart anymore, Count John. Looks like he has quite a spine and doesn't mind being cruel to his enemies." Giorgio laughed as he saw the scene, "Ha ha ha, it seems Lord Count also is as interesting as Prince Lukov, just not cruel enough to his enemies. He should have castrated both of them at least." Simon meanwhile thought and spoke, "What do you think, Pallet? That Count even dared to diss St. Paul's disciple in public." Pallet touched his chin as he spoke arrogantly, "I guess he is really pissed at Radiant Church this time around and hence the reaction. Isn't it natural? If this lord was targeted like that, I too would have been pissed and reacted the same. Anyway, this lord thinks that we should go to Hope and enjoy some snacks instead of watching this boring drama. Come, let's go, this show is over anyway." Simon face-palmed as he sighed and thought, "I guess some people think with heads while some with emotions. I wonder where does that count lies? And why do I have to be this fatty's partner who always thinks about food? I shouldn't have introduced him to that restaurant to make him move and do my work." Pallet shouted from afar as Simon was in his thoughts, "Hey, come, what are you waiting for?" Simon thought, "I guess I have no choice." Simon sighed and spoke irritatingly, "I am coming, don't nag like a kid." Lucius meanwhile was currently at North Frontier City watching the scenes of Francis. He thought as he watched the scenes, this lord at least sticks for his men unlike those bastards at Laguna City. However, I still would never trust anyone. I first need to get into this institute to get stronger. I heard from people that they were taking free care of orphans and would provide training and learning to everyone. It is quite ironic that I will take training from the same guys who were once enemies of Dad. I guess Mom was right when she said that Dad shouldn't be following Duke Fjord based on his morals. I was quite naive as I thought that Dad was always fighting for justice. At least I won't follow Dad's path. I will become someone who will always fight for his own well-being. I need to be selfish in this selfish world. Well, at least part selfish." Chapter 129. Josephine meanwhile too was watching the show while searching for some kids who escaped the institute. Josephine was the first to notice Lucius as she saw him watching the whole fiasco. "Hey, who are you kid and why are you not in the institute? Did you leave in secret to watch this event? Where are your mates and friends?" Lucius was quite scared as he tried to explain, "I am Lucius. I am an orphan and just arrived in this town. I don't know what you are talking about, big sis." Josephine caught his ears as she dragged him to the institute and the quarters. "Come, you are coming with me. You guys can't fool me all the time. Joe has spoiled every one of the kids at the institute, including you." Lucius begged as he spoke while Josephine dragged him to the institute by ears. "Please, don't hurt my ears. I don't know what you are talking about." Josephine mocked him as she heard him, "Just a little bit of pain and you are crying already. And every one of you brats in the institute think that you can become as strong as Jake. No pain, no gain, remember this." Lucius thought as heard her and nodded, "I guess what she says is true as well. If I want to be stronger, I need to go through hardships. I can't let Mom's sacrifice go in vain." Josephine reached the Rose Institute gates. Both of them later reached the institute as she called the quartermaster and asked about the situation of Lucius. Josephine watched the documents and apologized as there was no mention of Lucius. It seems you really are new in this town. I thought you were one of those brats who ran from classes to watch the event. I am really sorry for catching you by your ears. Would you like to join the Rose Institute? You know Lord John provides free training, learning and food to all the orphans in this town. The half-beast boy Clay reached Institute with his friends and approached Josephine as he saw her. One of the half-beast boy named Clay spoke, "If you want to join, then don't join the class of this demoness, she will make life hell for everyone who is taught night training. Make sure to join other classes." Another half-demon boy named Azrael whispered in the ears of Lucius, "Well, what he says is true. However, never say that in front of instructor Josephine or you will get your ass whopped." Josephine furrowed her brows as she heard Azrael. She had quite keen ears but ignored it. As soon as Josephine saw the half-beast boy, she caught him by his ears. "Weren't you the one who threw that rock at that prisoner? Don't you know it is dangerous for kids to be around there? It seems you were the one who took all the children to that show. Weren't you guys instructed to be in your classes?" Clay didn't match his eyes with Josephine as he tried to give his excuses, whistling slowly at the same time. "No, it wasn't me, it was someone else who just looked like me. You can ask everyone, no one was there, we were only doing some night training." Josephine smiled and said, "Even John saw you throwing the stone and you think you can escape?" Clay excitedly asked Josephine as he heard her and asked her, "Really? Did Lord saw me as well?" "No, I mean did Lord saw the other guy as well?" Clay controlled his emotions as he blurted out. Azrael was laughing the whole time as he saw the whole thing going on. Lucius thought as he saw them, "The people here are quite warm compared to other cities. I wonder why. I wonder who were those men who helped me escape Laguna City. Apart from them, no one helped me. Anyway, I will train here for now as my goals match the goals of Count John for now. I can't waste Mom's sacrifice in vain. Hell in this class? This hell would be a lot better than training alone." Lucius then strengthened his will as he came near Josephine and asked her, "Sister Josephine, I would like to join Rose Institute under, I want to be someone who is able to protect himself and his friends." Josephine smiled as she heard him. Josephine then asked about another girl of the gang to Clay, "Meanwhile, where is that elf girl, Anna? Isn't she always with you guys?" Clay subconsciously spoke about her to Josephine. "She is in the arithmetic class, always getting scared of the consequences. I will make sure she comes with us next time around." Josephine smiled as she gave her punishment. "It seems you guys really were near the podium where the event took place. You guys will be running 15 laps of the whole institute today, or else don't expect me to take both of you guys to meet Lord John next month. As for you Lucius, since you have agreed to be under my tutelage, you will join them in the class as well." Lucius screamed as Clay carried him off as well. "Damn, why would I have to run as well? I just joined now. This is injustice." Azrael sighed as he spoke to Lucius, "Why do you think I always end up doing all this stuff?" Lucius looked at Clay and understood as he resigned his fate to Clay carrying him off. The quartermaster Bill smiled as he watched the kids leave. "It looks the new guy will be getting along well with his new gang." Josephine nodded as she heard him. "I guess he is still a kid, but he is someone who is scarred as he seemed to possess immense will when he asked me to join Rose Institute. Anyway, make sure to prepare his dorm with them and register him in the institute." During this time a lot of people began to gossip about the Templar assassin Francis and his humiliation that was carried out at North Frontier City. Duke Blackwolf spoke to Fen, "I am quite surprised that this upstart would have the spine to defy the Radiant Church. I guess I need to change my evaluation on this upstart." Fen had his own thoughts. "I think he made the right decision to treat the Radiant Church as his enemy, as someone from the top might have certainly ordered his hit and hence the intense reaction from him. However, he should have hidden his enmity thoroughly." Duke Blackwolf smiled and spoke his hypothesis. "You forget that he has a relation with demons as well. I don't think the church would relent unless he stops his interactions with Vlad and Blucia House at least." Fen nodded and spoke, I guess this is one of the main points as well. I guess he is expecting more help from Prince Lukov and Blusia House by choosing his side this early. This will become quite tricky for us. Duke Sapphire said to Marquis Ray, it seems he really is ready to confront the Radiant Church by looking at his stance. It seems he purposely made Francis renounce his faith so that it can be a big black spot on Radiant Church. It looks like elves would really be happy to ally them with Count John, as Prince Lukov is someone who is unpredictable while John is someone who is at least predictable ideologically, as he doesn't discriminate against races. I guess Tornwall really was right when I met him earlier. How did the Pope react to this? Ray sighed and said, no news till now. I guess they really don't like people peeping at them. They made sure not to reveal any news about the Pope and cardinals. At the Radiant City, Pope David roared hysterically, what? How dare he humiliate both of our men publicly and make them renounce their faith? This is a big stain on our honor. He rejected my goodwill even after such a generous offer. Is that guy really itching for a fight just because of the mere successful assassination of that nobody called Sylvan, and now that he has that weapon called ballista and mini ballista? He really needs to be executed, as he has a lot of tendencies comparable to that lunatic. Additionally, this guy is more dangerous than Lukov, as he is quite smart in inventing new things which will be problematic for us in the future. From what I know, he was the one who invented this ballista, unlike what the rumors said about that dwarf making the ballista. Pope David continued, I expected him to defy us but didn't expect him to defy us publicly. I guess I underestimated him. He is forcing us to act against him. What do you think, Calvin? Do we hedge our bets and start funding Prince Charlie as well? I am quite impatient this time around. Chapter 130. Calvin the Templar Knight nodded and gave his suggestion, that guy Charlie is quite cunning like Prince Felix, however unlike Felix, he will be harder to control if we fund him. However, he would be a good bet for us, as he has a big grudge against Prince Lukov as well. David didn't pay any heed, as thought controlling Charlie was easy, and spoke, we can manipulate him using women. You should know he is quite weak when it comes to women. Calvin again stressed, however, he is also someone who values his own life more than anything else. We should at least carefully hedge our bets. And aren't we overthinking about a mere count? Though he has big guts. I guess he is only vying for attention. David didn't agree and gave orders, well, it's okay, we will fund Charlie as well. It's okay as long as both of these thorns are removed, as both the Count and that lunatic are would be big menaces for us in the long run. We can still support Felix after both of them die. Plus my instincts are saying that this Count could be very dangerous. I heard from our seers that they weren't able to see anything through that Count about his future even with multiple tries. All they could see was fog. So this Count is a big anomaly considering the unknown future. The future of this kingdom becoming uncertain day by day. It has not been like that before the arrival of that Count. Plus our spies have reported that King is again gathering those seers. So I am sure something is brewing up. This order wouldn't have been given without Ian Red's approval. Calvin coughed and reminded, I think Prince Lukov is already a big menace for us after such a long time. So seers can't see him. Well, I will inform our men of the current plans. David nodded as he let him leave, you can leave for now. And right now most of the cardinals would be in agreement with my previous proposal of helping Robert and providing funds to Duke Fjord after that previous fiasco by that upstart. Even St. Paul is quite angered this time around. So this would be perfect for us to use this pretext. Even the other guys who are against this would be quite enraged by the treatment that Francis got this time around. So prepare for an emergency meeting of cardinals. Calvin nodded and left to prepare. Okay, I will prepare for the meeting and inform the cardinals. After 15 days, Henry woke up from his coma. He was being constantly treated by Dirrell's men during this time. He had 24 hours of surveillance on him in case of an emergency. Henry reacted after 15 days. One of the demon men who was watching him reported to his head, he is reacting after a long time, it looks like he is out of his coma. Should we take a look at him, sir? The head didn't even look as he was busy and spoke, no, call me only when he wakes up. The head didn't pay any attention to his man and was busy with his own paperwork. After some while Henry woke up. Henry looked at his own bandages. He was a bit confused looking at his own situation, but he soon gained his composure and spoke to the man looking after him. How come I am here and still alive after such falling from such a height? I wonder who saved me. So who are you? Henry saw that a demon was waiting upon him. He was a bit cautious at first and thought, nah, I shouldn't doubt them. I would have died long while back if these men meant any harm to me. Looking at the bandages, it looks like these guys saved me. I should thank them first. Henry continued and asked him, do you guys know where are we and which one of you saved me? I am the knight of Duke Fjord's order of knights and I am sure he would reward you generously for saving me. Wait, what is the situation of Lord Evan? Damn, this will be big trouble. Henry realized that Evan most probably died as thought about Evan. The man got confused as he saw Henry was asking so many questions. Arg, you have a lot of questions. Just stay here and rest. I will bring Lord Diril over here, he will clear your confusion. He is also the one who saved you. You can ask him your questions. First, let me report about the situation to my superiors. The head of the department soon reacted after watching that Henry woke up. The head heard about the situation and reported to Diril about Henry's situation and him waking up. Diril thought as he heard his man, I will take a look at him first, don't say this to Jake first. Inform master about him. Come, let's go. The head nodded and reported about other situations and left to inform John and Vlad. Okay, we also have one of our men keep a lookout for him in case his injuries take a toll. After 1 hour, Diril reached Henry's quarters as he saw him getting dressed in formal clothes. It looked like he was okay after having breakfast and coming out of the coma. Diril saw Henry okay and asked him, it looks like you are already ready to leave after meeting your benefactor. Aren't you in quite a hurry? Can I know where are you intending to go right now? Henry saw that Diril came and understood what happened. It looks like you guys were the ones who saved me. I don't think I have anything that I can give you guys as you saved my life, however, I would like to offer my sincere thanks to you guys for saving me. As for me going, I would be going back to the Eastern Domain to meet up with my colleagues. Diril smiled as he heard about him going back to Duke Fjord's domain. You might want to hear me before going to Duke Fjord's domain. It is concerning the situation and circumstances after Evan's assassination by Prince Hector. I think you must harden your heart before listening to this news. Lord John also wanted to meet you personally as he can give you all the accurate news. Henry furrowed his brows a bit and asked, what sort of news? Did something happen to Duke Fjord's domain? Diril sighed as he heard him and broke the news to him, your wife Lucy is no more. Henry got angry as he heard this before leaving and asked him with a roar, what are you saying? How did Lucy die? What happened to her? Are you joking with me? Diril slowly narrated the events to him. She actually killed herself as she didn't want to get captured by Duke Fjord's men, Darius in particular. So indirectly, she was killed by Duke Fjord's personal knight order or Darius in particular. There is one more point. It was Darius who was leading the men on Duke Fjord's orders. Darius even tried to her first to exact revenge for his brother, Marcus's death, but he lost his eye while confronting Lucy. However, she died saving your son Lucius so he could escape. Currently, his whereabouts are unknown. So the thing is, Duke Fjord judged you as a traitor on word of one of the guys from your team. I think his name is Sebastian, and hence the current situation of your family. While Duke is using Evan's death also as a pretext to attack us. While we were the ones who killed Evan as per Duke Fjord conclusion, however, the thing is, it is Prince Hector who carried out this conspiracy. Henry gritted his teeth as heard about this betrayal and asked with coldness filled in his eyes, while immense rage filled in his voice, how long was I unconscious for and how much time has passed since that incident? And why did you guys save me? Were there any other intentions from your side? Diril furrowed his brows as he heard him and spoke with anger. You were unconscious for, I think around 15-20 days, as for your wife's death? I think it is around 12 days as we got information 12 days back only. Diril continued with anger, Humph, as for saving you, it was not my idea, it was Jake who saved you previously as he said that you didn't seem like a bad person. The only other intention from me would be to expose Prince Hector. I guess Jake's anger overwhelmed rationality and that is why he didn't save Evan. As for me, do you think I will save my enemies willingly without any benefit? Henry kept his tears bottled inside and angrily cursed, 12 days they concluded I was a traitor in 1-2 days only. This is how I get fruits of my loyalty, by being called a traitor, with dishonor and the death of my wife, orphaning my child. Since they dared called me a traitor, I will make sure how a loyal traitor pays them back. Damn, why didn't I listen to her when she was alive and kept remaining in a fool's paradise that I would be treated respectfully and awarded for my years of hard work and loyalty? Fuck. Why was I such a fool? Henry cried as said the last sentence and cursed as he heard about the event from Diril. He cried for a long time. Diril too sympathized with him as he knew about his circumstances. He thought, the very fact that he still believed and cared about House Laguna after waking up is more pitiful. A knight's oath? Is it worth it for incompetent lords who don't even respect their own men? Heck, even incompetent lord would be better as long as he respects his men. After calming down and drying his tears, Henry continued in anger, as for Darius, he will wish, he shouldn't have been born for even laying his eyes on Lucy. As for that hypocrite Duke, he will regret making an enemy out of me. He thinks I will always remain a pushover. Henry then gazed Diril and asked him, do you guys know where is the body of my wife and have any other information on whereabouts of my child, Lucius? Diril thought and answered, I think you will have to meet my master or Lord John if you want more confidential information. Henry thought with a calm mind, nodded and asked, please arrange my meeting with Lord John as soon as possible. I would very much appreciate it if I can have one. Diril spoke in a hurry and left. Well, you should rest for now. Master and John most probably got information on you so you wouldn't have to wait for long. I will be leaving for now as I have to attend some matters. After watching Diril leave, Henry thought about his wife, but he had a look of determination as he thought about his son. Henry thought as he tried to process all the information he got from Diril, so it was that kid Jake who saved me last time around. Even though I didn't save him or his family when Evan persecuted them. I guess I was too afraid of being discovered. I guess my family suffered because of my sins of following such a master and ignoring so many injustices done by Evan. As for Darius and Sebastian, they will certainly want to die if they are caught in my hands.